Hey everybody, Bill here again. This is a continuation of the first video about how I make the tabs in LightBurn on the work pieces. There was a couple items that I had forgot to address, and I had already ended the video and uploaded it, so this is just part two basically. All right, so let's say like over here on this piece, I want to create multiple tabs to be able to mount onto another piece, and I want them to be spaced evenly. Um, that's one of the things I'm going to show you here. So we're going to create a box real quick just to show how it's done. Okay, let's say that's what we're working with, and that's the size of our tabs right there. Okay, now if I want to create multiples of the same exact one and have them all lined up with each other, we're going to use the array tool, which is here. And then columns is left to right. So the more numbers you have, the more columns you have. And then rows is top and bottom. So see what happens when I add that. If I deduct the columns, then we go back to it's just up and down. So we're going to go left to right. And then however many of your tabs you're wanting. Okay, let's just go with that. Okay. Oh, and then we're going to undo that real quick. There's another thing on it too, is the spacing. So let's say that's spaced too far and you want it a little bit tighter. The X spacing, which is your left and right, you're going to decrease that, and you see what happens. They go a little bit tighter with each other. If you want them to be further apart, you just increase it. So we're going to go with that just for example. Alright, now my apologies, I'm trying to think of what I'm doing here. But see, I'm still on the square tool. So I'm going to go back to the selection tool. Alright, so I'm going to grab it, maybe, and snap it to the bottom there. Now, let's say I want it centered on this piece, so that way everything's spaced evenly and fairly centered. We're going to select all of it, and I want you to see what happens here when I do this. I come up here to the center tool, V center. Where did all my boxes go? Well, they're superimposed over each other right here. So what we need to do first, I'm hitting Control Z to undo stuff, just FYI, is we need to group these together first. So I'm going to select them, Control G to group. Now, when we do align V center, align horizontally is what that is, or vertically, I'm sorry. Which is, on the vertical plane. But anyway, you see what happened? Everything's centered up left to right. So now we're good. Okay. Now I want to show you something else. I'm going to ungroup these real quick. So let's say you don't have them grouped and you want to try to weld it all together. If you hit Control W, well, sometimes it does it, sometimes not. The program's a little finicky sometimes with it. You may have some that don't weld. And if that's the case, it's a super simple fix. You just got to do it one at a time. It's a little bit tedious, but if they are not all welding together, you just go through and do them one at a time. And hold Control, click the next box, Control W, still holding Control, click the next box, Control W, and you get the idea. You just rinse, lather, repeat. So that is how I get the tabs on a piece like this. Now let's say, for instance, now that you know you got your tabs here, you need to make the holes that line up perfectly on your other piece. Well, before you weld them, select them all, hit Control C to copy, and then Control V as in Victor to paste it. Now you literally have the same exact boxes with the same distance in between them, same everything. And then you would go through and edit the size of these if you want to. You don't have to. I do it just to make it a little bit more of a snug fit. But you would take and deduct whatever amount to make the box slightly smaller. And that I don't know of any other easy way, but I do it one box at a time, because if you select them all, and then you go in here and change the number, it's going to change all of the boxes and the position of where they're at. 3.5, see what happened? It changed my spacing, it changed everything. So you have to do it one at a time. Another thing is, when you're changing your dimensions, if you're doing, like what I was doing earlier, the 0.125 for the height and then 0.25 on the width, make sure that this lock is unlocked, because if you change it, if I change it to 0.25, you'll see that the height changes along with it. And if I don't want that height to change, I need to make sure that box is unchecked, so that way the height doesn't change. If you do want the height to change, if you want to maintain the same aspect ratio on, depending on what it is you're doing, then you would, lock that box. But in this particular situation, we don't want the box locked. And then also too, if you're doing vertical tabs, so we're going to copy, Control C, Control Paste, and then you can hit the period or the comma, and it'll rotate it 90 degrees. Alright, so let's say I want to do some tabs on the right side. Go back to our array tool. Now we're going to do rows. Okay. And moved it up, so I should have started from the bottom. But anyway, let's say I'm good with 4 rows. We're going to put it here. Alright, we're going to remember we have to group them, so Control G, and then we'll select the box that we're working with here. And then this one we're going to align H center here. And then, should be good, because if you go V center, that's what happens on that one. So H center, top to bottom is centered, so we're good there. And then again, before you weld it, if you need to, if you're going to mount it on a piece over here, on a separate piece to the side, just hit Control C, Control V as in Victor to copy it. That way you have the same spacing and everything lines up the way that it should. So that is on that. I believe, so another thing that I also did forget to address as well is, like, if I'm doing 2 tabs on this, oops, alright, group here, okay, alright, so I'm not going to group this, I'm just going to leave it as is. I want to show you, try to show in detail what I was talking about earlier. Okay, we're going to go 3, maybe, yeah. Alright, outwards, we're good there. No, I didn't do it. Okay, oh well. Alright, so now we're going to, never mind, we're not going to group that. Okay. So on this one, obviously I can't go 1/4 inch wide on the tabs because it'll look a little weird. So 0.125, because that is my material thickness. And on this one, I just adjusted it to be what I thought looked pretty good for the piece that I'm putting the tabs on. And then I'm going to hit Control C and Control V as in Victor to paste it again. That way I have the same matching width tab on this side. Alright. Don't forget, when your icon changes here, you can drag it. Don't forget to snap it to the bottom. That one looks like it is, but just to double check. Alright, snap to the bottom, and then again make sure your corners are on the inside of the line. Doesn't matter if you go over the other line, because you're going to be welding this only with the offset. Alright, so Control W, weld. Now I'm going to select these ones, Control W, weld, and there we go. Now before you weld it, and also before you extend the box longer, to make sure you get the same distance on the holes that you create, just hit Control C and Control V. That way whenever you put it on the piece that you're making, it'll line up whenever you go to drop the piece that you cut out into whatever piece it's going to be put into. And then from here, you would just, adjust your box slightly smaller if that's what you want to do. If not, you don't have to. Again, personal preference. And that way, it's going to line up. You know that this piece here is going to fit in these holes. So that is basically it on that. Again, hope you enjoyed the video. Have fun lasering and have a good day.